Point 1. Hoping it's not cancer. Paul Kalanithi was a man at the top of his game. A respected neurosurgeon, he was just 36 and had a bright future ahead. He had a loving wife, Lucy, and they were planning a life filled with joy and success. But then, everything changed. Paul started to feel a severe pain in his chest and was losing weight rapidly. Even though he was a doctor, he couldn't accept the possibility that he might have cancer. Lucy found out that Paul had been secretly looking up his symptoms online. This led to a big fight between them because Paul hadn't shared his fears with her. They separated for a while, and during this time, Paul was tormented by the thought of having cancer and how it would affect his life and his relationship with Lucy. Then, the phone call came. His doctor told him that his chest X-ray showed signs of cancer. The news was crushing, but it also brought a strange sense of relief. The guessing game was over, and now he had to face the truth of his diagnosis. The hope that it is not cancer is a phrase that captures Paul's initial denial and fear. It shows how we, as humans, cling to hope even when faced with a life-threatening situation. It also highlights the emotional roller coaster a person goes through when they're faced with the possibility of a serious illness. Paul's story is a powerful testament to his bravery and determination in the face of adversity. It gives us a deep look into what it means to be human, the delicate nature of life, and the search for purpose. Even though his story is heartbreaking, it's ultimately one of hope and resilience. It reminds us that even when staring death in the face, we can still find meaning and purpose in life. Point 2. Childhood full of bugs and books. Paul Kalanithi, a renowned neurosurgeon, had a childhood that was a unique blend of experiences. His early years were filled with adventures in nature and a deep dive into the world of literature. These experiences shaped his outlook on life and his eventual career. Paul's father, a busy doctor, was often not around. This left Paul to explore the world on his own. One of his earliest and most vivid memories was stumbling upon a group of black widow spiders. For a young boy, this was a terrifying experience. He lived in a place where it was common to come across scorpions, tarantulas, and other potentially dangerous creatures. Over time, he learned to live alongside these creatures, even becoming comfortable with them. There was one incident that involved a close encounter with a rattlesnake. According to a local belief, if you killed a rattlesnake, its family would come to the same spot as a form of revenge. Paul and his brother, believing this, carefully caught the snake in a pillowcase and let it go in the desert. They even went back later to get the pillowcase so their mother wouldn't be upset. Paul's mother, who was an Indian immigrant and a medical school graduate, played a big role in his intellectual growth. She wanted her children to be well educated and introduced Paul to literature when he was very young. At just 10 years old, he was encouraged to read George Orwell's 1984. The mature themes of the book were a shock to him, but he was captivated by the language and storytelling. This early exposure to literature sparked a lifelong love for books in Paul. He read classics like Ivanhoe and The Count of Monte Cristo, and works by Jane Austen and Charles Dickens. Aldous Huxley's Brave New World particularly struck a chord with him, leading him to write a philosophical essay on happiness and its role in the meaning of life. In a nutshell, Paul's childhood was a mix of experiences with nature and literature. His encounters with spiders and other creatures taught him about coexistence and survival, while his early exposure to literature nurtured his intellectual curiosity and philosophical thinking. These experiences shaped his perspective on life and death, which he later explored in his career as a neurosurgeon. Point 3. Looking for purpose, avoiding the truth. In When Breath Becomes Air, Paul Kalanithi, a brain surgeon, wrestles with the big question, what makes life meaningful? This isn't just a mental puzzle for him, but a deeply personal journey, tied up with his own life and experiences. Kalanithi's search for meaning has two parts. On one side, he wants to understand the human mind, with all its thoughts, feelings, and awareness. He loves literature, seeing it as a way to peek into the human soul. For Kalanithi, books are a way to explore the complicated nature of being human, to dive deep into our emotions, and to wrestle with the big questions that shape our lives. On the other side, Kalanithi is fascinated by the physical human body and the real, biological processes that make us who we are. This is why he chose to be a brain surgeon, a job that lets him literally dive into the human brain and explore the physical parts that create consciousness and thought. Kalanithi's search for meaning isn't just a mental puzzle, but a deeply personal journey. He wants to understand not just what it means to be human, but also his own place in the world. This is why he chose to work at a Sierra camp, where he could be surrounded by nature and think about the beauty and greatness of the universe. He believes this experience brings him closer to understanding the meaning of life. But Kalanithi's search for meaning also involves a kind of running away from reality. This is clear in his struggle to balance his mental understanding of life and death with the harsh realities of his job. As a brain surgeon, he sees how fragile life is every day. He sees a premature baby born, only to die moments later. He dissects bodies, coming face to face with the stark reality of death. These experiences force him to face the harsh realities of life and death, and to wrestle with the big questions they bring up. In the end, When Breath Becomes Air is a deep dive into the meaning of life, seen through the eyes of a brain surgeon. Kalanithi's search for understanding is both mental and deeply personal, marked by a constant push and pull between his desire to understand what it means to be human and his need to face the harsh realities of life and death. Through his experiences, he offers a unique view on the big questions that shape our lives, and invites us to join him in his search for understanding. Point 4. First encounters with death and birth. In When Breath Becomes Air, Paul Kalanithi, a neurosurgeon, wrestles with the profound realities of life and death. He experiences these realities both in his professional life and personal life. The book explores the significant theme of experiencing the first death and birth, which reflects the dual role he plays as a doctor and a human being. Kalanithi's first brush with death in his professional life was with an elderly woman who was his patient. Despite being 82, her organs were in surprisingly good shape, much like those of a person in their 50s. She was dealing with bowel problems, which led to her having surgery. After the operation, she seemed to be recovering well, and a young neurosurgeon confirmed her stable condition. This allowed Kalanithi to go home, thinking his patient was on the road to recovery. But his calm was shattered when he got a midnight call telling him that the woman's condition had taken a turn for the worse. Despite his best efforts, including giving various medications and fluids, her health kept declining. In the midst of this crisis, he also had to save another patient's life. He managed to stabilize both patients and left the hospital, only to be called back the next evening as the woman's condition had worsened again. Despite performing CPR and doing everything he could to save her, she passed away a few hours later. This experience was a harsh introduction to the reality of death in his profession. Despite his vast medical knowledge and skills, he couldn't prevent her death, which left him feeling frustrated and helpless. This incident highlighted the delicate balance between life and death that he, as a doctor, had to navigate every day. On the other hand, the concept of birth in the book isn't just about the literal birth of a new life. It's also about the birth of new perspectives, understanding, and acceptance. Kalanithi's journey through his patient's death and his own terminal illness led to the birth of a new understanding of life's fragility and the importance of making every moment count. In conclusion, the experience of the first death and birth in When Breath Becomes Air is a profound exploration of the human condition, the fragility of life, and the inevitability of death. It serves as a reminder of the delicate balance that exists in life and the role of doctors in navigating this balance. Point 5. From healer to the one needing healing. Paul Kalanithi, a skilled neurosurgeon, shares his personal journey from doctor to patient in a deeply moving narrative. He recounts a significant event from his career, an operation on a young boy of 8. The boy had a tumor on his hypothalamus, a part of the brain that controls basic needs like hunger and thirst. Unfortunately, the surgery didn't go as planned, and the hypothalamus was slightly damaged. This small mishap led to a drastic change in the boy's behavior. For years later, the boy couldn't stop eating because his brain no longer told him when he was full. This story is a stark reminder of how delicate our bodies are and how a small change can lead to significant consequences. But life has a way of turning the tables. Kalanithi found himself diagnosed with lung cancer, lying in the same hospital where he once treated patients. He was filled with a sense of bitterness, thinking about the opportunities he would miss and how close he had come to achieving them. In his fight against cancer, Kalanithi sought the help of a renowned oncologist, Dr. Emma Hayward. She was hopeful about his chances of survival and even believed that he could return to his practice as a neurosurgeon. She suggested that he might have a specific type of mutation, called an epidermal growth factor receptor (EGFR) mutation, which could be treated. With this information, Kalanithi began to research his condition and potential treatments. He discovered that, at best, he could expect to live for about 2 more years. Faced with this prognosis, Kalanithi and his wife, Lucy, decided to visit a sperm bank. They knew that his treatment could severely damage his ability to have children, so they decided to freeze his sperm to preserve their chance of having a family in the future. The results of his tests brought some good news: he had a treatable mutation, and he wouldn't need chemotherapy. This news brought a glimmer of hope, and he began to feel better. However, the uncertainty of how much time he had left loomed over him. He pondered over his career choices. If he had only 2 years left, he wanted to spend them as a writer; if he had more, he would like to continue as a neurosurgeon. But the exact numbers eluded him. As he underwent treatment, he experienced a profound sense of alienation from his own body. His physical weakness made him feel like a different person. This experience underscored the profound shift in his life, from a doctor who treated patients to a patient grappling with his own mortality. Point 6. The final chapter. In the final chapter of his life, Paul Kalanithi, a gifted neurosurgeon, faced the harsh reality of terminal lung cancer. Despite the grim outlook, he and his wife, Lucy, chose to bring a child into the world. Their daughter, Elizabeth Acadia, became a beacon of hope and joy in their lives. Paul was able to witness her first laugh and smile, moments that were priceless to him. Cancer, however, is a cruel thief. It steals away time and energy, robbing you of the ability to do things you love, like traveling or chasing personal dreams. For Paul, it felt as if time had stopped. His future, once brimming with potential, now seemed like a flat, featureless landscape, with no significant highs or lows, and focused solely on the present. Paul thought about writing letters to his daughter, but the uncertainty of not knowing who she would become held him back. Instead, he left her a powerful message, reminding her that her existence brought immeasurable joy to a dying man. This message was a testament to his love for his daughter and the happiness she brought him during his final days. As Elizabeth turned 5 months old, Paul's cancer advanced aggressively, and no treatment could stop its progression. Despite this, they continued to find joy in small moments. During Christmas, they invited friends and family to share in the warmth and love of the holiday season. In the last months of his life, Paul dedicated his time and energy to writing his memoir. However, the cancer had spread to his brain, affecting his ability to enjoy his favorite food and impacting his mental clarity. Despite the doctor's best efforts to maintain his cognitive function, Paul was unable to finish his memoir. His wife, Lucy, stepped in to write the final chapter, ensuring his story was told. In the end, when Paul realized that his condition was not going to improve, he asked to hold his daughter one last time. He expressed his gratitude to his family, declared his love for his wife, and requested that she publish his memoir. This final act was a testament to his courage and determination to leave a lasting legacy, despite the challenges he faced. Point 7. Conclusion. Life is a delicate balance between living and dying, and it's the journey that truly matters. As we navigate through life, we must strive to find meaning in our work, relationships, and experiences. We must also confront the reality of mortality, understanding that death is an inevitable part of life. The pursuit of knowledge and understanding is a noble endeavor, but it's equally important to appreciate the beauty of existence. We must learn to live in the moment, cherishing each breath as if it could be our last. In the face of adversity, we must find the strength to persevere. Even in the darkest times, there is always a glimmer of hope. It's this hope that can guide us through our struggles and help us find peace in our final moments. Life is not about the number of breaths we take, but the moments that take our breath away. It's about the relationships we build, the love we share, and the legacy we leave behind. In the end, it's not about how much time we have, but how we choose to spend it. Remember, life is fleeting, and every breath is a gift. Cherish it, live it, and make it count.